In the city of Port Harcourt lived Felix, a doctor, tall, dark, and handsome. He was an introvert who enjoyed his space and time alone. Felix was extremely shy, and most times people wondered how he ended up with medicine as a career choice. Despite being shy and introverted, Felix loved kids and was very kind to his patients. He understood them and would always try to help them out. Everyone at the hospital loved him dearly. At his apartment, he was known as the quiet doctor. He lived alone and was always inside the house. He rarely had visitors, and the only time people came to his house was when his mom or sister came visiting. Felix had a neighbor named Amanda. She was beautiful and very curvy. Felix had a crush on Amanda for a very long time, but could not walk up to her because of how shy he was. He would rather lock himself up and pleasure himself to her pictures. It became often, and he gradually became addicted to it. Amanda was a very outgoing girl, and Felix had seen the caliber of men she rode with. He convinced himself that he was not good enough for her, so he never approached her. One day, while Felix was working at the hospital, a patient was rushed into the hospital in a critical condition. Felix came to attend to the patient, only to find out it was none other than Amanda. He was so scared and tried his best to treat her, but her condition was very terminal. She died within hours. This broke his heart. He cried for a very long time. He was so heartbroken and in pain. Amanda's body was taken to the morgue. After work that night, Felix went to the morgue and told the mortician he wished to see Amanda's body. The mortician gave him the keys and allowed him in. He went inside and Amanda's body was brought out for him. He stared at her body and still couldn't believe she was dead, as she just looked like she was sleeping. The mortician left him to go back to sleep. He stood there, crying out his eyes. He looked at how beautiful she was, even while she laid lifeless. He slowly kissed her and gradually started touching her body. He quickly undressed and raped her body. Then he got up, dressed up, and arranged her body back so nobody notices. When he was done, he ran out of the morgue. He felt dirty for what he had just done, but at the same time, he felt deeply satisfied. Even though his conscience kept judging him, he kept killing his conscience and pushing it aside. The next day, he kept thinking about going back to the morgue. After his shift, he waited till no one was looking. Then, he went back into the morgue and repeatedly slept with Amanda's corpse. This went on for a while before her family came and took her away. Felix was back to his boring life again. He kept trying to hold the urge he felt. He went back to the morgue to look for his next victim, but there was no one in sight. One day, while treating one of his patients, a wicked thought came into his mind. He asked her if she was comfortable in the room where she was with other people, and she said no, she wasn't. So he offered to move her to a private room in the hospital, where she could have her privacy and be on her own. She was very happy and grateful to him. He then gave her some injections, claiming it would aid her sleep. That night, he told her family to leave so she could have enough rest. He snuck into her room and raped her continuously that night. It became a normal thing for him to drug and rape patients. Even married women were not spared. Though people began to suspect, especially the ladies, they suspected that something had been done to them while they were asleep. But they were not sure enough, so nobody spoke. No one suspected Felix, of course. They all suspected the other doctors, because to them, Felix was the godly, harmless guy. He had never even made any move on a lady in the hospital before. So, no one thought of him as capable of such disgusting acts. One day, an extremely beautiful girl came into the hospital sick. The moment Felix laid eyes on her, he could not stop thinking of all the evil things he wanted to do to her. She came in for just malaria and high fever, but Felix made sure he had other reasons to make her stay over at the hospital. He then gave her a room and offered to treat her himself. That night, when her family left, he secretly added things to her injection that made her unconscious. When he was sure that no one was looking and there was no one close by, he crawled into her room and raped her severally. When he was done, he tried cleaning her body but found out she was already dead. He panicked and hurriedly left the room. The next day, when her family came, they were shocked to hear the news. Her father, who was a famous lawyer, immediately took her corpse to a different hospital for an autopsy. He refused to believe that his daughter, who simply came in for malaria and high fever, died just like that. The police got involved, and immediately they began conducting investigations. The autopsy results showed she was injected with an overdose and was raped. When the news got out, other women began to speak up on what they had experienced in the past months. Everyone became eager to know who the culprit was. Felix panicked. He was scared. He had gotten so comfortable that he never bothered to clean up the CCTV footages because he felt he was never going to get caught. He started making plans immediately to run away to a neighboring country. Unfortunately for him, as soon as he had packed and was ready to leave his house, the policemen came and caught up with him. He was taken to the police station, and it was revealed to the public that Dr. Felix was the culprit. Everyone was in shock, especially the nurses. Most of them tried severally to get his attention, but to no avail. It came as a shock to them that someone who wouldn't look their way was capable of rape. And to top it all, he was going around raping people's corpses. He was taken to court and was later sentenced to death. Please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe and share. Thanks for watching.